Our gospel reading today comes from Luke 17, 5 through 10. It's about faith and service. The apostles said to the Lord, "Make our faith stronger." Jesus replied, "If you had faith no bigger than a tiny mustard seed, you could tell this mulberry tree to pull itself up, roots and all, and to plant itself in the ocean, and it would. If your servant comes in from plowing or from taking care of sheep, would you say, 'Welcome, come on in and have something to eat'? No, you wouldn't say that. You would say, 'Fix me something to eat. Get ready to serve me so I can have my meal. Then later on, you can eat and drink.' Servants don't deserve special thanks for doing what they're supposed to do. And that's how it should be with you. When you've done all you should, then say, 'We are merely servants, and we have simply done our duty.'" May God add his blessings to these words. So we heard in the gospel readings the lessons today as John read from 2 Timothy, Paul extolling people to make full use of God's gift given to them. And so we hear that in our gospel reading today when we're talking about a mustard seed of faith. And so we hear the disciples asking Jesus, "Give us more faith, give us stronger faith, boost our faith." Why are they asking this? Well, in Matthew's version of the gospel, the disciples had failed to heal an epileptic boy. And so Jesus brings up this mustard seed of faith as saying, a way of saying, you don't have enough faith yet. And so he begins to tell them if their faith was strong, they would be able to tell the mulberry tree to pick itself up and plant itself elsewhere. And so we hear, sorry, I lost my page. Here we go. And so if we had that faith of a mustard seed, which we do not have yet, time will come. And after the resurrection, they do have much stronger faith. They've seen God, or Jesus, die on the cross, be buried in a tomb, and emerge 3 days later. And that strengthened their faith, and they were able to do miraculous things. But that required faith is faith in God. That's where our faith comes in. And we find that the power behind the faith that Jesus mentioned here is God's power. It's a faith that God allows us to appropriate that power. And in thinking about this, I got to thinking about the scrapbooks that are on the table, about Marge Thompson Sherwood with Monica and Jean and helping to start this church. It's evident that Marge Thompson Sherwood had a strong faith, strong enough to endure the labors of wanting to get a Protestant church in Morgan County and working tirelessly to make that happen. And I'm looking through the scrapbooks over there and seeing all the work that all the faithful put into starting this church. As Jenny said, pre-internet days, well, they were in the newspaper all the time. They were constantly submitting stuff to the local newspaper saying, this is what we're doing. This is what our congregation's doing. These are the meetings we're having. These are the different committees we have doing different things, and pictures and articles and flyers. And I got to thinking, I've monitored the internet startup community, starting up a new software company, and it takes a lot of work. I've had my own company, and as Jenny can attest, my life came to a standstill for a couple of years as I worked to run that business. And I think starting up a church is just as much effort. Keeping a church in the community is just as much effort. It takes faith. It takes faith that can draw upon the power of God to make this church part of the community. And so I think over time, people have come here. They've become part of our community. We've had a very good community here. We will always have a very good community here because we are family with one another. We've seen each other through a lot. And while maybe we haven't been able to heal everybody, maybe we haven't been able to rescue everyone from their burdens, it's not an indictment of our lack of faith here in this church. It's recognizing that we gave what we had at the time. And while the stories of all the pottery dust that was filled this church that Monica faithfully cleaned out, as those fade into the sunset, it doesn't affect the faith we have in God. The fact that Morgan Valley Christian Church is reaching the end does not mean we didn't have enough faith. It doesn't mean that we didn't do enough. It means we did our best. And we draw upon the strength of God at this time to give us the strength to see things through, to whatever God is calling to next. Whatever God is calling us to next will draw upon our faith, our mustard seed of faith. That God is taking us to another place to grow our faith further, to bring us new friends, new family, to help us find ourselves along the way. And so we lean on the faith of God at this time. We spend time in prayer and say, God, show me where I need to go. Show me what I need to do. And so we take what we've learned here as a faith community, and we develop that kind of powerful faith that we can go out into the world and say, this is what God did for me at Morgan Valley Christian Church. It wasn't that the church did it, but that God brought us here to empty us so that God could fill us with what God needed to provide to us at this time in our life. And I very much wish that we had more in our community. I very much wish this didn't have to happen. But God asks us to march out in faith even in uncomfortable situations, even in hard situations, even in tearful situations. It calls us to focus on God and not the building. It calls us to focus on our friendship, our family, and not the building. It calls us to focus on Jesus and to trust that Jesus will bestow that greater faith in us. Because we believe that we are not done yet. We believe that we have something of value to offer in this world as witnesses of Jesus. And so I leave that with you this Sunday, that your faith is not inadequate. Your faith is adequate. And what you have done here at Morgan Valley Christian Church is appreciated. Appreciated not only within our community, but appreciated by God. And so we give thanks for having the opportunity, the blessing to have been stewards of this church. So I ask you to pray and for God to come to you and give you peace during this month where things get harder. I ask God to come to you and bless you with the love that has been here forever. Amen.
Amen.